All right, so Matthew,
Film guy. Right.
Until we get to, we're going to get to other sound. I hope you're going to stick around for it. But let's get to your film recommendation of the week. Now, what was the last one that you we don't recall?
I think it was it was Under the Skin, which everyone here in this office loved, if I recall.
Under the Skin.
I hated.
Oh, right. One person didn't like it, but everyone else liked it.
Yes.
Anyway,
I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
That's fine. That's fine.
Sorry.
Just put it on the pile with the rest. Yeah.
I've been watching The Americans, though.
I've heard that's great. I'm going to check that out.
So I'm walking down the street, ran into the FBI agent, and just walked by, said, enjoy your work. I was very excited.
Is that a spoiler?
Well, it turns out he's not.
Okay, don't tell me who he even is. Don't tell me the actor's name.
Here's what's weird.
Because I know it's spoilery.
Yeah. He, on the show, he's supposedly divorced and has a kid who seems to be like 18 or something. In real life, his kid's younger, and it appeared that they were still married. Not the same.
He must be a good actor.
It's a great performance.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's weird how people can do that.
Yeah, very strange.
Okay, so as I do my film class with the senior citizens at the JCC in Forest Hills,
Of course.
I always come across great gems which inspire lots of heated debate, and I always try to push them a little bit. And a couple weeks ago, I showed a film which I actually hadn't seen, as I sometimes do, but has a great reputation, and it wound up becoming easily one of my top 10 favorite films.
Ever.
Wait
a second.
Ever.
So you watched the film for the first time, and it's wow, that
just leapt up there.
Now, so all right, so did you screen it before you played it for the?
No, but I do put together like a little bit of a blurb based on other reviews. So I kind of scanned and sort of basically understood its themes and its content, but without spoiling it for myself.
Do you think, before you tell us what the movie was, do you think that you're influenced by the audience reaction in the room? Like, because I always found that even when we showed Who's the Caboose in theaters, like the movie changed based upon the feeling in the room. And I wonder if you experienced that. And go ahead.
If I was influenced by the feeling in the room, I would have hated this movie, and it would have been one of my, because it was almost open mutiny. It was like two people were like, almost give me my money back. There was a really huge backlash to this film.
But that doesn't answer my question.
And you think, I was like, haha, anything the senior citizens at JCC, like, I don't like, I love, like that.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the voice you put on, but in your mind,
that is how that would sound.
I think there could be a little bit of like, these people.
You rubes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it was, I was blown away. My mouth was hung open. Now, at certain parts during the film, it was so disturbing that I was like, ooh, Grandma, just watch that. Like there were parts where it was a little nuts. But I'm the guy who, my grandmother took me to see The Crying Game, okay? And we had a very bonding afternoon that day.
Wow.
But so I'm open to the idea that these are adults, they're not just weird children, so it went well. And
all right.
The movie...
Don't say what it is yet. Let me just ask you this. When you introduce a movie like that, do you say something like, this movie brought to you by the Majority Blend from JustCoffee.coop?
Well, something can
Use
be
the coupon
arranged.
Code 10% off. I mean, these people must enjoy coffee, right?
Oh, definitely. In fact, that's one of the staples of the class, and they will riot if the coffee's not there on time. And it happens to be horrible coffee, I have to say. So maybe I could introduce them to the...
All right. So let's get to the movie.
Okay, so Dennis Hopper directed Easy Rider. Then he that was a huge independent film hit. Then he directed a movie called The Last Movie, which was a huge flop. And then somehow he was cast as an actor in this film, which was Canadian funded, and he wound up being hired as the director and turned it into, I think, another movie of a piece with the themes of Easy Rider, but sort of down the line. And it is called Out of the Blue from 1980. And it is like a punk rock masterpiece. The main character is played by Linda Mance, who was the girl from Days of Heaven, if you recall. And then later, Harmony Korine, based on his fandom of Out of the Blue, cast her in Gummo as the tap dancing mom.
Ah, what?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and
she has that great voice, right?
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah,
that is the
like
narration
Streetwise.
of.
Yeah, that's her.
Wow.
And this is her tour de force. She plays a girl whose father, played by Dennis Hopper, has to go to jail for an unspecified crime, which I will leave out because it's a great
okay.
part of the film. And she is raised in this sort of, I don't want to say squalor, but it's sort of like lower class, working class, Midwestern kind of despondency. She becomes a huge fan of punk rock. It's very vocal about how much she loves Johnny Rotten and loves the Ramones. And she's also a huge fan of Elvis, which, if we could really break it down and did a film class, there's so much symbolism in her worship of Elvis. But her dad finally gets out of jail. She has all these kind of like punk rock adventures, trying to be an adult, trying to say F you to the man, you know, in that sense. And it's so easily one of my greatest I think experiences in a theater. And also Mary, who sometimes comes to the class with me too, she was equally as blown away, and she's in some ways a tougher customer than me about breaking films into her top 10, and she thought this may be even one of her favorite films of all time. In fact, I just bought her the poster to put in our new office. It's that sort of impressive. And the themes of the film, I just want to say briefly, is it's sort of a continuation of what Easy Rider was about. It's like the hedonistic side of the 60s, the sort of openness and the kind of freedom that entailed came with a sort of a price. And it's sort of about how you run into problems if you're trying to either suppress or ignore the dark side, not just of a cultural movement, but of your own inner life, your own emotions, and how you really only wind up doing violence to yourself and to your family. And as things progress, things get pretty dark in this movie if you are unable or unwilling to look at and accept the dark side of life, the sort of costs and the pain and the hurt. And it actually wound up being a great part of the discussion I had with the senior citizens, who were so angry because part of their thing was like, why did you show me this? Why did you make me experience this horror? And it's sort of like that's exactly the point, is for you to be able to embrace that. A film will help you kind of do it at an aesthetic distance, but this one really blurs the line. And it disturbed me in certain scenes towards the end. And I don't want to say too much about it, but it is really dark. But
so
this is about healing that, because you can't get through it without facing it and learning to tolerate it.
So this sounds like a good one for family movie night.
Exactly. Get Mila, get Saul, sit them down. No, you and Nick, you should probably watch this one on your own. But I think it's an important movie to see. Just, again, it's sort of a commentary on the sort of baby boomers, how they thought it was all a wild party and then it crashed down, because Dennis Hopper sort of could play like that same character if he had lived, and just became like a drunk, you know? So he was sort of trying to just drink the pain away. And it sort of shows what the aftershocks of that kind of suppression and unwillingness to touch the dark side of life, the shadow side we have, what that wreaks on your environment and your world. And it's sort of like how punk rock is sort of a cultural yell against that very thing happening from the baby boomers. So it works on so many levels, just as a drama, as like the most darkest movie of the week, after school special you ever saw, as a cultural statement, and just as a work of art. It's just amazing.
Wow. Out of the Blue, it is a 1980 film. It's a drama, and
we call it drama.
Drama.
All right.
Directed by Dennis Hopper. He stars in it.
And it's one of his best performances too.
Really?
Apart from maybe Frank Booth and Blue Velvet, this is just, because he's not a very likable guy, and yet there's something very compelling about him. It's a harrowing film.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, when was the last time you saw a movie that became in your top 10 films?
That's a good question. I've seen some great ones in this class, because I've sort of molded this class as like, I'm going to finally see all these films that people have been telling me are so great over the years.
Who told you this was great? Did someone tell you this was great?
Well, actually, to be honest, Harmony Korine, from all his interviews he did around the time of Gummo, said that this was a huge influence on his aesthetic. And it's called Out of the Blue because it has Neil Young's song, Hey, Hey, My, on the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Neil Young does the soundtrack, so I was always a fan of that album, Rust Never Sleeps. And so I kind of always knew it for many years. So it wasn't necessarily another person I knew in person, but it was something that I'd heard name-checked through a lot of similar artists that I liked.
There you go. All right, Matthew Film Guy, Out of the Blue.
Yeah.